Welcome to another edition of City and State TV. I'm Gerson Borrero, and today we are pleased and honored to have a activist, person who I met in when he was trying to organize Dominicans 2000 with his brother Carlos, Idanis Rodriguez. Who doesn't know Idanis Rodriguez at the city council level, in the Dominican community, Latino community, Washington Heights. Welcome to City and State TV again. How you doing?
Thank you, Gerson. Good, good. You know, I think that we know even before Dominican 2000 because
We do.
We all those marches against police brutality, Richie Perez, Howard Jordan, Jose Alfaro, you know, that when Juan Rodriguez was killed in Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn.
And Leona Bumpers, I know that from those days that we've been there.
It's been quite a, you know, sometimes you just see people and you think, wow, it's like you go through processes. And right now, one of the curiosities that I have, and I wanted to talk to you about this as a council member, Idanis, you have right now, I tell you, one of the few things that surprised me, and not too many things do, when you switch from your interest in higher education into the transit, committee. It was like chairing the transit committee because I know of your passion and your love for education. What prompted that before we get into the specifics? I know transportation is important, but what happened with education? I know you had your picking.
Well, education, when you care and love, have your love for education, you will always be connected to education. So it's like when I was teaching, when I graduated from City College in '94, and I was invited to be part of the team that created Gregorio Luperón High School. They asked me, what experience do you have on education? And I say, if he's talking about what experience do I have in the classroom, nothing, because my BA was political science, only 3 credits on education. But I told them, if you are looking for someone born and raised, working with young people, then you're talking to the right person. So for me, like, education will always be one of my top priorities. As Malcolm X said, education is a passport for the future.
So you don't need a title to be chairman of the Higher Education Committee?
No, I continue. Even when I was chairing the Higher Education Committee, I always keep my approach into early child education. Because I did not focus on what happened in the 4 years for students to get a BA or a master's degree, or how much we need to work harder to deal with the issue of lack of diversity at the leadership of our institution. I always focus on how can we create a pipeline from early child education to 12th grade so that we can be sure that the Latino and Afro-American population does not continue being decreased in our senior colleges, as it has happened in the last couple of years. So for me, education is always my passion, and I continue being part of the higher education community.
So before we get into transportation, because somehow it's connected, because we are, you know, a city and borough to borough, school to school, and parents, you as a parent, which I know not only as a student, but now you have a child. As a matter of fact, I saw you with your daughter several weeks ago, and you were carrying her books and talking with her. You have an interest also in this education as every parent. How is the education system right now, New York City public education system, under this chancellor, Chancellor Fariña? Are these the kinds of changes that Idanis Rodriguez, the educational activist and advocate, is happy with, or do you want more? Do you think this mayoral control thing is the way to go because it's good for one mayor, but it could be a disaster for another in the hands of another mayor? You, the activist, and I know politics is part of what you're doing. Before we get into your role as a Vision Zero and all of that, what do you feel? Are we headed the right way in the New York City public school system right now?
I believe we are, but the crisis is too big. I believe that this administration inherits a situation that would take many years for us to say a child that go through the school system from 1st grade to 12th grade, in whom we invested $200,000, should be a college material. That individual should know how to read, write, and do math, and be sure that they are above 80 average student, that they do good on the SAT, that they will have choices to say, I can get into a senior college, in a private college, or go to a community college, or going for a technical career. However, they should be ready prepared. And I think that when you look at throughout the cities, looking at my own district, School District 6, the data that this administration inherits it's a nightmare.
So it's too soon to right now evaluate Carmen Fariña's tenure because she said, what, 15 months into 14
I
months?
just love the fact that she is an educator.
She is.
She is an educator.
Right.
And I love the fact that when I met with her discussing the crisis that we have inherited, that we have created for decades in our city, especially in my own district. And I gave it that number. 80% of our students from 3rd grade to 8th grade, they are level 1 and level 2. And then when they go to high school, let's say Gregorio Luperón
right.
or George Washington High School, at George Washington we had 2,600 students. 95% of those students, they were the level 1 and level 2. So they don't know how to read, write, and do math at the 9th grade average. So I think that on her, we have someone that understands education. I believe that the mayor is committed to make a change. I make the ask to the mayor. I say, I would like to see you living your legacy on education too. I would like to see how we change the number, especially among the English language learning students. 95% of them, they are level 1 and level 2 when they finish the 8th grade. So finally, we have a deputy chancellor, Milades Baez, who is in charge of the ELS student. So for me to see that the administration honor and recognize the student population that we have among the ELS and make that person a deputy chancellor, for me is a signal that we are getting from this administration. We have to take care of our ELS students.
Let me just quickly say for the viewers of City and State TV, we're talking to Council Member Idanis Rodriguez in the Washington Heights, Quisqueya Heights, as I dearly call them. When he mentions Gregorio Luperón High School, I became aware of it when it was actually in a not a proper place for students. He was a teacher there along with Juan Villar, who was the actual and still the principal. And you couldn't imagine the amount of activism that went on between the parents and teachers, and you were able to get it through the struggles and through holding the community the administration accountable. But you actually got through community struggles, they actually allocated, I think it was $28 million to build. And Michael Bloomberg, and I gotta say Dennis Walcott as deputy mayor kept his word, in charge of education, kept his word and built that. So that was a struggle, but it was won and it was hard fought.
Yeah, and the young lady who took the lead organizing the student fighting for the new building, Jocarina Duarte, who was the one that went to one of those DOE meetings, and she went with a group of students, started sending a lot of email, and when the chancellor visited the school, he made a commitment that he will build the new building for Luperón. Today, Jocarina Duarte is a graduate student from City College. She was in charge of my community relation, and now she's doing governmental relations for OEM in the city. So at Luperón, not only we as a teacher had the opportunity to work with a great population of new coming students from Latin America, but our school, as such as a school like El Puente, focus on things.
In Williamsburg.
Yeah, so we focus on things. We focus on organizing our students that they know that education is more than learning how to do an equation. It's more than learning.
More than test taking.
Testing.
Scores.
Education is happening more outside the school than what is happening in the classroom.
Are you directing this to Governor Cuomo? No, I'm only kidding. Getting back, now, having said that, because we could talk about education for another 3 hours, your role as chairman of the Transportation Committee, what's happening in the city? We right now have the Vision Zero, first of all, because I know it's something you really have been pushing and you have been able to achieve. Are you at a point where you say that this is a success, the Vision Zero, a policy that you've implemented, that you helped with the mayor and other city council members? Are you at a point that it's working where it needs to work?
It's a success, but there's a lot more work to be done. For me, the hero of this campaign, of this initiative, are the Family for Safe Street. Those are the group of parents that they have lost their loved one. So when you meet with those parents and you meet this couple that the 8-year-old was killed because a irresponsible driver, he failed to yield and he killed his daughter. When you meet with a parent whose daughter was killed at 84 in York Avenue, when she was getting ready to start her career. So for me, like, you know, and now that I have two
That
daughters.
keeps it real.
Yeah, it's keeping real. For it's more like, you know, it's more than the data. It's the human part. However, in 2014 was a great year because in 2014 we had the lowest number of New Yorkers killed by car crash accident since the day when we started collecting data. What we are working right now is to break our own record that we created in 2014. So I believe
By saving lives.
By saving lives. So I believe that we are doing a lot of progress. I think that, you know, like I met with this guy that he told me, like, look, I was at the hospital, the one Grand Concourse in Lincoln, is that the Lincoln Hospital? So he said, I was visiting one of my uncles there. He said, when I was at the window, I saw the difference now on how drivers are taking the road at Grand Concourse today when 25 miles per hour is the speed limit compared than before.
No, wait, that's at Mount Eden Hospital, right? Is that further up? Or I know it's off Grand Concourse, but I know
that's where the Dominican Day Parade in the Bronx usually started. Right. So in that particular intersection there. So the whole thing is that for any floor, when anyone see Grand Concourse, is different today than what it was before in the past.
The pockets of New Yorkers don't mind paying additional fare, additional money, a quarter here, a quarter there. Why does the MTA continue to suck our pockets with really not providing the service? And in the average New Yorker, you see, you know, I can understand an increase. Everybody's got to make, but it seems, can we get something that functions? Does the MTA, why do we keep trusting the MTA with the fare hikes and not improve services? I know that in the community that you live in, Washington Heights, it's always been a struggle. And you complained about services, it's bad service, you've had all kinds of construction delays, and it goes on for years and years. So you've lived this, as not only as a council member. Tell me, and in charge of Transportation Committee, how do you tell New Yorkers that this is working and the fare increases has merit? Well,
MTA is an important institution. They manage the value of the MTA is more than $1 trillion. And they are responsible to provide transportation from the Metro North to all the subway and buses in the city. And it's like one of the transportation systems in the world that move more people every day, 24/7. However, I do believe with you. I believe that when New York covers 60% of the expense of the MTA or the train and the buses with the fare that we pay, we should expect more. And I believe that the MTA should be more creative on how to raise revenue, using their own capital property that they have, using the air rights. That's why today I'm working with a big plan to rezone 100 acres in Washington Heights. Also include...
And do what with them?
The idea is to do a economic development, focus on technology and health.
Okay.
And what I'm looking is a rail yard at 207 before you cross from Manhattan to the Bronx.
Right, I know.
There's 38 acres there. So I believe those 38 acres and all the acres in the north and the south of that rail yard should provide that opportunity for us to build a major tech community that can create low entry jobs for a youngster that they could learn about coding and technology and get into the $70,000 or $80,000 a year job. But beside that economic development, I know that probably you would like to talk a little bit more, MTA can be a great partner. And they are open. We are in conversation to see how we can use the air rights of that rail yard. Well, they should be able to get a good amount of revenue. I don't think that increasing the fare is the way of how we should try to balance our budget.
So you understand, even though you understand the MTA side and you're in a difficult position here because you're now a member of the New York City Legislature, you're the city council member, you do understand that most New Yorkers feel like their pockets are being picked every day because they're not getting the bang for the quarter or 50 cents that they're going to pay additionally. So you understand that?
I do believe and agree that New Yorkers should expect more. I believe that our train should be cleaner, even though we have seen major improvement. I remember when I came here in 1983, taking the 1 and 2 train, especially the 1 train in Dyckman to come and wash dishes in my first job that I have. I remember that there was no air condition, there was no heat. So no doubt that the train, the condition of train system has improved and the buses too. However, a few years ago, the MTA cut the bus services. And because of that, we have seen a reduction of many bus services in different areas. So what I'm saying is, I will continue working with the MTA,
Right.
making them accountable for them to improve the services, and understanding that raising the fare is not the first initiative that they should take when they have to balance the budget. That they should be using more space to advertise, work with the private and public sector and see how can they raise more revenue. I do believe also that from the federal, the state, and the city level, we should come on board and bring more support to the MTA. I do believe that we have to work with the MTA so that we can provide the capital dollars that they need to be sure that we have our 10-year plan to continue improving the transportation in our city.
We're going to continue our conversation with Councilman Lidanis Rodriguez right after this, so stay tuned for part 2.